So in this video, we're going to be discussing decoders and we're going to be building one in Minecraft. So what we're going to be building specifically is a 2-bit decoder with 4 outputs like this. So we're going to have a 0 output, a 1, a 2, and a 3, just like that. So how we're going to start is by placing one block like this that is going to be one block above the ground. And now to the diagonal, right where this dust is, we're going to put our first input. We can put our second input atop like that. Then we can put our second block with the dust on it. Then we're going to extend these to be 7 blocks long. So we have one here, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And dust along that. And 7 more like this. Perfect. So now that we have this, we're going to go one block out like this and one block down. So right here. And then we're going to do this for all 4 of our outputs. This is going to be the start of the output lines. So you want these to be spaced one block apart from each other. We're going to have dust over top of all of these. After we place that dust, we can build a glass tower like this. So it's just glass zigzagging up for 3 blocks with redstone dust over top of all this. We can build it like this, and this final one here, just like this. So this block is going to be our output through this torch. And right now, all of them are going to be on. That is what we will get to right about now. So what we're going to do is start off with all of the inputs that need to be 1. So in this case, we have 0. So none of these need to be a 1 for it to equal 0. But here on input 1, this needs to be a 1 for it to activate. And for input 2, this needs to be a 2. And for input 3, we need to input a binary 3. Just like this. And so now you can see that we're starting to get there. So our output 1 does turn on, and our output 2 also turns on, and 3 can turn on as well. But of course now we can also see that all of our outputs were trying to turn on. So we can place repeaters whenever the input line needs to be a 0. So for 0, both of these need to be a 0 for it to equal 0. For this 1 here, 2 needs to, the second line up here that represents 2 is going to need a repeater. It needs to be turned off for this to work. And for input 2, we need the 1 off. And for 3, we don't need any zeros because both of these need to be on. So now we can see that this works. So the way that this works is essentially we're making an AND gate. So both of these torches need to be turned off for this to turn on. But with our repeater here, it means that even if, it's powering this line, so even if we have our second line and this torch turned off, it will still stay powered, and it'll keep this torch off, which is exactly what we want. So this design is actually expandable. So if you wanted more bits, so if you wanted like a 14-bit decoder, you can just add inputs like this, and then just extend your input lines similarly to this, and then you can just keep building more outputs. You just keep making this, and just remember that if it needs to be a 1, put a torch. If it needs to be a 0, then put a repeater. Now there are a couple of different ways. Well, there's many different ways of building decoders in Minecraft, but the most important distinguishing factors that you need to know are the ways to build the inputs and outputs. What I mean by this is, if you can see in this case, all of our inputs will be stacked vertically, while all of our outputs will be stacked horizontally. And in this case, this design works really, really well, which is why I showed it. But there are other designs based on your needs that can have inputs that go across like this. So the inputs are horizontal, and you can also have outputs that are vertical. So in this kind of configuration. But I find that those designs often have a lot of drawbacks to them, either being very big or very spaced out, where you need like a 2-block or 3-block gap in between all of the outputs. And also with this design, you can do something that I think is kind of interesting, which is you can use the other side of the decoder. So let's say you wanted more outputs, like if you didn't have all of the space, if you didn't have the overall length, but you had some width within the space that you're working with, you can delete these two, and we are going to build them on the other side. So here we have 0 and we have 1. So what we can do is have 2 and 3. And now if we add our repeater here, block here, and block here, we can continue with our glass towers, just like this. We can have our outputs just like this. So if this happens to be more convenient for you, then this can work. And if you have a bit more space on the bottom, you can actually start to wrap this around like this. I would suggest finding a cleaner way of doing so. This is just a little rushed. But we can have our outputs something like this. I would definitely look into finding a better way of doing it. We can then have outputs that are sort of like, it's double the density essentially. Instead of having a 1-block space, there's no space in between these two. And so if you find that to be useful with your circumstances, with your other circuitry, then I would recommend doing it. So that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one, which will be about jumps.